Hi everyone, Soul Server 17 here. Let me choose like usual on this picture, paid video. Okay, so here's the thing. Last time we kind of left off, well, after the whole time Medusa fight. That was kind of like, just a little bit of lackluster stuff, to be fair. I mean, I honestly understood that I was kind of basically trying to figure it out, and I kind of wanted to get, like, at least some type of a DC hero power come into play. Or just, like, kind of something that I could basically try to get in the future somehow. Who knows? It's not going to appear that often, or at all. Only when I get, like, to a certain point. So, yeah. But, to be fair, a lot of stuff is going to be a little bit more, basically, action-packed going forward. It's while basically I'm able to, read the book or listen to an audio version of it. Alright. Because I think after this is where I'm kind of maybe caught up into the book and my Naruto Son of Chaos What If series of it. So yeah, hopefully I'll be caught up in that, and then I'll finally make some other stuff. Just been kind of hard listening to some things because I'm like sleeping a lot and don't really have enough time to do a lot of stuff that I want to do. I know, all excuses. All reasonable ones, I believe. So, yeah. Kind of have some ideas for some things. Anyways. Now, let's just get into this. So, like I said, last time Medusa and the Furies were fought. Basically, the spoil wars for Furies I don't really think would be anything. Maybe basically if something do with them, like one of their whips or something. Spoil war I didn't really find any, so don't think there's any spoil war from them, so that's why I didn't mention it. And the only thing that was from Medusa was her head. So yeah. Now, just know that basically, this is, kind of ended off kind of like, was a cliffhanger? Not really, because it was kind of a good time to basically stop. It was kind of like after Medusa going to the woods and everyone sleeps. Made shadow clones, saw basically some weird type of creature, out in the darkness, and it left. And I decided to go out and train. So yeah. So, what happens is very simple. That's where we start off. Since I made about like 8 clones to watch over everyone, and Percy and Grover are sleeping, and I'm not sleeping at all, I decided to, as I said, go out into a little bit, not that far from the woods. That far from our campsite, but far enough so definitely do harm anyone. So, I take a deep breath, deep breath in and then out, and then make the hand sign, for Shadow Clone Jutsu. As I probably would make around a good couple, I would say a good 40 clones, maybe even 50. I would just assign 10, as I assigned 10. 10 clones to do basically the tree walking and basically leaf balancing exercise, while basically doing both of that at once. I look at basically the other 30 clones. Well, 30 to 40 clones. As I'm like, alright guys, we don't really have much experience with fighting besides all instincts. So, I decided this. Best way to experience besides fighting and honestly getting random powers at random moments, like the Speed Force. Seriously, how did I even get that? As one of the clones like, I don't know, but it came in handy. As I just nod, I'm like, true. Anyways, as I was saying, we're basically going to I'm going to spar all of you and hone my basically fighting capabilities. we're going to start off slow by doing hand-to-hand combat and then go into weapons. Alright? As all the clones look at me and just nod as I get into a fighting stance. I'm like, just looking up a grin. As for some reason I feel basically my adrenaline pumping. I'm getting a little bit excited and I'm like, alright then, come at me with everything you guys got! As they all, run basically with determination, but not screaming, as I run towards them, the same way. And, well, let's just say, it's an all-out brawl. That's how it is. Every fight capability that I was trained in my time with, Clarice, and basically Annabeth has been kicking in. My clones are basically also, are also having the exact same things, but there are some things that, if I remember correctly, there are some taijutsu scrolls that I may have basically read. I would basically, try to use some of those techniques into basically my fighting style, and I started then to improve in mid-fight, and along with the clones start to improve on the fighting capabilities. So each punch I make, basically, it makes some of them skid. I'm dodging, basically kicking one, doing like a spin kick, hitting one in the head. Then basically, when I land my feet, basically jump back and immediately basically elbow the one that was jumping towards me. Just as for example, as that goes on for a while. As then basically I smirk, and then all of a sudden I take out basically one of the charms that basically is the katana, charm, and then it just, turns into the katana form. Well, the katana, basically, as I unsheath it. Some clones basically take out the arrows, others take out the daggers. The ones, not the throwing knives, but the daggers. Other ones take out the spear, and basically a few have basically katanas out. As I take a deep breath in, and take a deep breath out, and then I just nod at them, and they just start running towards me. And this is what happens throughout the night. Since basically this goes on, and me basically trying to dodge multiple opponents, multiple different different weapons are coming at me, and me basically trying to get the hang of it. In mid basically combat, for some reason, I'm starting just to basically not make my own style of fighting, but I'm trying to basically make myself push beyond my basically body limit at the moment, because I'm not gonna want to, not to get hit by these guys, because they're all me. As I'm basically slowly dwindling them down. Some of them are using chakra basically to enhance themselves. Others are using magic. Even basically using the power to project. That basically is giving them also some advantage. The one with the one that's using the bow and arrows. As each time basically that happens, I basically have to push keep pushing myself. So I would say this goes on for about 2 hours, and by this time, I've taken them out at least a good chunk of them to basically to where they're only down to at least 10 of them. As I'm basically huffing and puffing. I'm like, is that all you guys have got? As basically the rest of them are also huffing and puffing and just look at me with still determination. As I can't help but look at them with the exact same way. As they say, not even close, all exactly the same time. As I just smirk, I'm like, well now, let's keep going then. As then I just dash forward basically, without even with thinking, just no hesitation, just dash right in. Which I caught at least one of them off guard. That was the one that was right in front of me. As it just gets slashed right through. Even though basically I do witness all basically the clones' memories in mid-combat, it does help basically for me not to, get make me basically wince at it since I'm in combat, but I do basically have brief motions of where I do see something else from a different perspective. And, well, I would say in this, basically, this does happen where I do kind of wince a bit, because I, felt the slash as this one of the spear clones basically tried to hit me with the spear as I just grab it and accidentally, put basically wind chakra into the blade and slash it down, and that's when automatically made a wind slash that cut right through the ground, and basically the clone too. It wasn't that big of a slash, but still, which I'm like, uh, as all the clones are just looking at me and then looking at each other, as I'm like, give me a minute. As I just, all of a sudden, do some hand signs and try to at least focus on some type of earth jutsu. Or, well, just use chakra manipulation and basically do the, basically put my hands on the ground as I try to close up the hole. As it would slowly close up and the, grass would start to grow. And I'm like, okay. Well, that's a good chakra exercise right there. Now then, as I'm looking at the blade and there's still wind, going all around it, but slowly dying down. As one of the clones go like, hey boss, we never really figured out our chakra element, have we? Which I did not know. One goes, maybe I have multiple elements, not just wind? Which another clone like, who knows? We have to get chakra paper. If we could go to the Naruto universe, maybe we actually get some. As I just nod. But then I look back at the clones and I'm like, well, enough basically dilly-dallying. Or, well, messing around. Let's get back. As before I even finished it off, all of a sudden an arrow basically comes near me. And so I just caught it. It was basically on my left side, and I'm just looking at the clone. And the clone's like, what? I already know what you're going to say. As I just all of a sudden just throw up basically the sword. As I just take out basically my bow. Use the arrow of my clone and pull back on the bow and launch the arrow, killing the clone right between the eyes. I just sigh. I'm like, oh yeah, I forgot. One of the things is from the being a child of Artemis. Enhanced senses when you're in the woods. As I just catch the sword and the bow suddenly glows and turns back into a charm. As I just look back at the other clones, there's only one more bow and arrow. Basically, about maybe since I killed two, so the rest of the day you can tell. As they basically kind of spread out, and I'm like, give them the come on motion, and we're back to fighting. So after that, I basically come back and, just groan as I basically get, into my sleeping bag that I have out probably by now, because the clone probably did open up a portal, most likely. So as I just kind of hold it, I'm like, ooh, basically put down my sleeping bag as one of the clone that's from behind me would say, I did, boss, and I'm like, thanks, no problem. I'm like, I need sleep now. As I start to drift off to sleep. Now, before we go into anything else, we do go to Mount Olympus. As all the gods did witness my all-out brawl with my clones. Oh boy, give me a minute. Okay, as I said, as the gods witnessed my all-out brawl with my clones. As everyone is just like, he can clone himself. The ones who don't know say that. And then he proceeds to fight himself, which, basically Hermes is saying. And then Apollo says, and he proceeds to do some type of wind slash. But when he faced Medusa, what was the electricity around him? I think I know what it is, but I'm just trying to make sure. Hermes, my man? Which Hermes goes like, I believe it was the Speed Force? Which then, basically, if Athena did not know about basically my comic knowledge, she would have questioned it. She goes, most likely, yes. And we're just basically Ares is like, the speed what? And basically, before Poseidon or anyone else can say anything, Hephaestus goes, oh, it basically is you can say some type of energy, or some sort of energy that is very vast. This energy basically allows a person to accelerate at basically a speed like no other. In a sense, he basically, could generate enough speed to basically go back in time. In which Ares is like, you're kidding, right? Even basically Demeter is also can't help but basically be in disbelief and pay attention. Which Poseidon be like, he's not lying. It's like Hermes, basically speed, but it seems like he couldn't use it only when he's in danger. And then Zeus is like, no, saying, okay, so how did he make wind? She's looking at basically Poseidon and sort of glaring at him, which basically Poseidon rolls his eyes and was like, this. He goes, brother, he honestly used basically wind chakra by accident. He goes, wind chakra? He goes, yes, it's an elemental basic ability when you use chakra. So, he pours basically wind chakra onto the blade and then he made a slash with it. It's not that basically hard to understand. Besides, that uses no godly energy. Or basically of his demigod abilities. That's all chakra. Which Hephaestus, Hera, Artemis, Athena, Persephone would also, say yes to, agree with it if she was there. Hades, So yeah, just Zeus is like, alright. I can't say nothing about that. Now then, though, let's all just take a break from this. I'm also very angry with basically your son, Perseus Jackson, Poseidon, which basically, it's, Hermes can't help but chuckle at the prank that Percy did. So, everyone goes take their break. Meanwhile, Chaos is just blinking and just just saying to herself like, he had to do that, and he basically helps himself in advance. I gotta get in contact with basically that unknown god, unknown primordial, and ask him to do some things, because my boy really is going too fast for his own good. Before anything can happen, all of a sudden, Chaos gets, a mental connection to someone, a call, in which he has not heard from this person in a very long time. So Chaos says this, oh, I'm actually quite surprised that you ever, called upon me. Which, basically the voice says, it has been many centuries, my old friend. How have you been? Chaos is like, good, you? I've been alright. Nothing of the, sorts of interesting has happened to me in my many years of being reborn. In which then Chaos goes like, understandable. So, what do you need? Information. In which Chaos raises up an eyebrow and goes like, information on what? I heard rumors that there's a unknown power that was coming around that seemed like a primordial's child. They didn't basically get the scent of it fully. Or, they did, but they didn't know how to basically proceed to say it. But they can just say it was chaotic. So, I wanted to know, is this your child? In which Chaos just says without second thought, yes and no. which she basically can see in her mind, see the person making a one, have one eyebrow going up, and then she proceeds to explain, and as then the person, on the other side of the call goes like, I see. So, you basically adopted a child from another dimension that was destroyed, which he somehow survived, and seven other, basically, deities, or, gods, specifically 3 gods and 4 goddesses, basically agreed to adopt him. Interesting. Which she's like, yep. So, what are you basically thinking, my old friend? In which he just says, I'm actually quite curious about him. Maybe he could. No, it wouldn't work. As then basically Chaos smirks, and then she says, oh, what won't work? The person just sighs and says, me giving him a gift. In which he's waiting for Chaos to basically explode, but nothing happens. Which then basically, Chaos, just says, oh, like you've done to many of my other children, but they always seem to basically fail. As you say, they weren't basically strong enough to handle it. In which basically the person just sighs, like, yes. But maybe this one can be able to handle. Which Chaos just says, I give you my permission to even try. And if he basically passes your little test and you do turn him, just remember, he won't be like any other, basically, anyone else you have ever met. Don't take that to offense. Which the person stays quiet and says, I won't. And he says, thank you, though, my old friend. As in the connection, gets cut off. As basically the Fates were wondering why Chaos was quiet, which one of them asked Lady Chaos what was the matter. Hold up. Alright, sorry. Thought my dad was coming in my room, but anyways. As I was saying, Lady Chaos, what's the matter? As then Chaos just says, oh, nothing. Just got a call from an old friend. But I do have to make a call to the unknown primordial that basically made the shadow creatures. The shadow werewolf. As all of a sudden, basically Chaos just moves her hand as an iris message appears as, well, the person that's there is the unknown god. Well, unknown primordial. As the primordial's like, oh, Chaos! Hi! You're not mad at me for what I tried to do to your kid. I mean, so long ago, right? As Chaos just looks at the person with a non-expression face, basically neutral face. Hold up. Okay, sorry. Anyways, as I said, neutral face towards this primordial, the one that made the Shadow Wolf. So back in basically part 4, part 3, maybe even part 2. Part 2, probably. Even one of those 3. Anyways, as like Chaos just says, I'd like for you to make those shadow creatures, in which the unknown primordial or god, that I really think about it, because I don't remember what I said, but I think it's primordial, just blinking at Chaos. It goes, sorry, can you repeat that? I thought I misheard you. In which Chaos just says, I'd like for you to make more of those shadow creatures. They seem to be given a challenge to any ordinary demigod, including my son. So I'd like for you to basically make more of those. Switch it up from, every now and then. Like, make regular monsters like the Minotaur, the Mammalian Lion, the Hydra, the Gorgon, the Harpies, something like that, mixed with other different basically species of monsters from other mythologies if you want to. Ooh, also mix other basically like the Minotaur mixed with the basically Nemilian lion, which basically just makes basically this unknown primordial or god just blink and just start chuckling like Chaos. You do realize what's this gonna do? And Chaos just says, yes, I know. That's the point. In which basically they just see the unknown primordial or god just smile and be like, as you wish, Chaos. I'll just start making them as basically as soon as I can. I need to get some references for some things. I need to try to figure out which versions of said things I'll create. Give me a minute. Alright, sorry about that. My dad just called me. He wanted to talk to me about something. Anyways, so as I was saying, as the unknown primordial or god, did say, he'll get it done as soon as he could. He does ask though, but do you have any references that I may make creatures of unknown origin that I can? Which Chaos basically would think about it, but then smirk because I do know monsters that she could make that are not from Monster Hunter, but they're still monsters. As then she basically waves her hand as then a book appears, which this unknown, god or basically primordial catches it and be like, and smiles. He was like, "It shall be done, Chaos." Just warn the other pantheons or other primordials to warn their pantheons of this. These will be, well, mildly dangerous. As that's when the iris message disappears, which the Fates are thinking, what have we done? So, when everything else is done in the morning, basically what I mean by that is, everything's done, it's morning, basically. I wake up, Grover's gone, and Annabeth is awake. She's just about to make dinner, not dinner, breakfast. I'm like, huh? Oh, camping out. Yeah. Oh, hey, Annabeth. She's like, hi, Jack. I was just about to make breakfast. I'm like, oh, want me to help? She nods, and then she goes, by the way, she points her fingers at the treetops. I'm like, oh, Shadow clones. Remember? She goes, yeah, but still, they're out. I'm like, true. As then basically they start pooping one by one. As I just kind of blink and go through the memory. And I'm like, huh. Well, at least nothing happened last night. Which, basically, Annabeth's like, yeah. So, while basically I'm, helping Annabeth make breakfast, Annabeth, does ask this. So, all that electricity that was coming around you? Oh, the Speed Force. The Speed what? The Speed Force. Ever heard of Flash? DC Comics? Don't own anything of the hero or the character, just, they own by DC. I just want to put that out real quick, but yeah. So, Annabeth is like, I never read comics very much. I'm like, well, yeah, that's where it comes from. You could say the Speed Force is kind of like a void of energy. A void of massive amount of energy that is just has no limits. That's how I see it as. So, which he nods slowly to that. So how were you able to access it? I'm like, don't know. Just heard a voice and then all of a sudden, I'm able to do it. I was moving so fast, I'm surprised my clothes didn't burn. Not fast enough for most people to not see. Even calling basically the energy. I mean, I think it was due to basically many different factors, but I can't really say. Huh. Ah well. In which, yeah, Annabeth would not solely to that. She goes, so, how did you sleep? I didn't really sleep at first until I saw something in the woods. Well, she's like, huh? Yeah. I just saw glowing eyes and I kind of got scared. Not gonna lie. But I needed to go train. Well, I wanted to go train and keep myself occupied. So that's what I did. I'm not allowed brawl with my shadow clones. Nearly got killed a couple of times by them, though. uh, in which Evis, like, just pauses what she was basically about to do. She looks at me, she goes, you're gonna get killed by your shadow clones? I'm like, they copy my weapons, too. In which she goes, so you were gonna spar with them? Or you could have died? I'm like, yeah? She decides, like, are you an idiot? I'm like, quite frankly, maybe. She's like, I'm like, first off, I needed to get better in combat. So, alright, sorry about that. My power went out for like a few minutes. And I didn't know like when it was going to be back on, so I just paused the video until it came back on. My power went out earlier in the day. So, yeah, now where did I leave off? Okay, if I remember correctly, yeah, Annabeth was complaining about me being, stupid, for basically fighting my clones when I could have died. And I'm just, like, saying, so what? Yeah, that's where I left. Yeah, that's where I left off. Okay, so as I said, it's no really problem. So what? But she's like, it was an uncontrolled environment. I'm like, so? This is how I improve myself. Besides, I figured out something new. She's like what? Me, basically, taking out a dagger. Basically, from my jacket. And, start coding one chakra. I'm like, figure out to basically use one chakra to put on my daggers. Or swords. Or spears. Maybe arrows? Who knows? I just smile at that as I put basically, the dagger away. As if I realized correctly, I did not take off my jacket, so yeah, I put it just back in the holster in my jacket. In which she's like, that's just so irresponsible. I'm just looking at her. I'm like, yeah, so. I mean, you really, huh? I mean, don't you guys basically, train back at the camp and you guys get hurt? She goes, yes, but we have someone there to make sure we don't go overboard. What do you think about it? Like, true, but no one's here. I have to train, have to get better. Besides, there was 2 factors that basically I needed to do. 1, get better at fighting big groups of people. And 2, get better at combat. The third thing that happened was all by accident. Learning about what I could do with one chakra with my blades. That was all by accident. And when she's just blinking and she just sighs like, I can't believe you're my brother. Which is just pat her on the shoulder, but like, come on, let's get back and finish up breakfast. And when she nods, and after a while, Grover comes back with a poodle. As I'm just looking at him, I see the poodle. And I'm like, nice poodle. And I just don't even care, which Grover's just like, thanks, I found him? I think it was a him or her. Gotta double check that. Yep, I was right. It was a him So, yeah. As basically Annabeth asks about Gladiola, as then basically they say, well not they say, but Grover says how he started up a conversation with Gladiola. Gladiola. Weird name to name a dog, honestly, but anyways. In which, I say hello to Gladiola, and which Annabeth does too. And I'm just like, so, who's gonna wake up Percy? In which they just, Grover looks at Annabeth, Annabeth looks at Grover, and then back at me, and then I'm like, you want me to wake him up? Annabeth just goes, you can try. You never know. I'm like, fine, I'll wake up basically seaweed brain. Which basically Annabeth goes like, huh, seaweed brain? I'm like, yeah. She basically just looked at me like, I mean, didn't you hear me call him that once or something? I'm like, I just shrugged, but like, doesn't really matter. I'm saying it in a joking way, not like I'm actually insulted him. Which Grover just blanks. I'm like, don't worry about it. So I go over to Percy. I see him basically, starting to sweat and mumble in his sleep, which I'm like just sighing. Which Annabeth sort of basically, sees and comes over, and that's when she does come over and ask what's wrong. I was about to say something, but then Percy would say what he does in canon, which me and Annabeth just look at each other. I just sigh. So I'm like, Percy, Percy. Which basically Percy's like, actually, about to wake up. I'm like, Percy, a monster attack is here. Which all of a sudden Percy gets up. He goes like, where's the monster? Which I'm like, ooh, you just missed them. They ran away because they sensed your presence. Oh, great Perseus Jackson. In which Percy looks at me and he's like, half awake. He's like, huh? I'm like, breakfast ready? Come on, let's eat. He's like, he shakes, off his drowsiness. He goes, right, wait, where's the monsters? I'm like, it was a joke, Percy. But that woke you up very quickly. I should do that more often for you. He's like, dude, don't joke around like that. I just look at him like, it was that, or I get a water bucket. And water. He goes, actually, I prefer that. Me waking you up basically like that, or the water bucket. The first option. Basically, I just shrug at him. I'm like, to be honest, I thought you were going to choose the second option. Which Percy just blinks at me. I'm like, don't mind me. So, we eat. So we tell Percy about, Gladiola. As Grover even tells Percy about it. Well, about him. As Percy does that, I'm not going to say hello to a poodle. Which I'm like, Percy, I said hello to the poodle. Annabeth said hello to the poodle. Annabeth does agree with me. And goes like, and then she says, so you had to say hello to the poodle. In which Percy looks at me and Annabeth, he goes like, is that the Athena in you? Which I'm just blinking. I'm like, probably? Who knows? Why? Which he just says, yeah, you two acted the same for a minute. I'm just like blinking. I'm like, well, to be fair, I am technically both your brothers. So, I'm gonna act like you guys from time to time. Which basically Percy just sighs and just says, hopefully you don't get her. As an end of it goes, my what? Which Percy's like, nothing. I'm like, just sighing, but then chuckle. I'm like, I want to say something about that, Percy, but I'm not. Anyways, just say hello basically to the to Gladiola, because he's willing to help us. In which Percy just blinking and then just sighs, be like, "All right then." He says hello, and then after we eat, he asks, "What's the game plan?" I'm like, "Well, we're gonna take the $200 plus the money that we have from basically funds from the camp, and hopefully we can get a ticket, a couple of tickets to where we need to go, and save some money for cash." Which basically Percy, Grover, and Annabeth just nod. So where we can try to get a ticket to, which I'm like, well, closest to basically our marker, if we can. I don't really. I hope I don't know if we can, but I hope we do. Can at least close as we can. But who knows? In which basically Percy nods. I was like, yeah. I just really hope basically we can though. Which I'm just basically like, you never know, man. What are you thinking, MF? Should we basically try to take the train all the way there, or which basically she's thinking about it. She goes, I believe basically at least closest we can get. Then we can save the money with our other things. Which I'm like, well, that should be good enough then. I mean, I'm glad basically you think that what I basically said is a good idea. And it was just me basically spitballing down here. In which Grover's like, really? I'm like, yep. Seriously, dude. I don't really know, if we basically can try to get all the way to our destination where we need to go. So, hopefully, we can get there. Quicker than basically we can, but yeah. I have feelings that can be that easy. Me then thinking in my head, because it's not, because we're going to be attacked at some place by the Queen of Monsters. Ugh. And the Chimera. So what happens next? So we do, return Gladiola to his home. We get the $200. We get the tickets, and then we basically, take the Amtrak train. Just need to basically find the name where we're gonna be stopping at. So give me a minute. All right. So the tickets. Well, so we did have enough money to go past Denver, but we only took basically go as far as Denver and took the exact same seats that we did. That were basically in the canon of the book. Now in the sleep cards, just in the normal cards that we had to sleep in, Percy was keeping a low profile because of the book, because of the papers, and, well, I mean, I didn't really have to because I wore a mask. But still, the front paper did show that, and basically, sort of, I would say, Percy just kind of sighing, even though I didn't really, I don't believe I was in front of Percy, so it did not show, I believe, but I want to say, just in case it's a yes and no, somehow the mist did show Percy's face slightly, but not by much. In which, I'm just lying down, I'm like, thinking to myself, the mist is a real cruel thing. Well, at least it's not showing much, but Percy still has to keep himself like this, and I should probably get some more sleep then. Percy and Annabeth are gonna have that conversation tonight, so... What should I do, though, to relieve my boredom? Meh. And I'm just, shrugging and just saying, meh. Grab out my, look around, see if anyone's gonna, look at me. Grab my bag from my, pocket dimension portal, or, I like to joke around saying my treasury. grab my bag that has my phone in it, take it out, and just basically start playing something with headphones that I magically make that wirelessly connect to it. So I just started playing a game on my phone. So, as I'm basically thinking, since I'm in this dimension, should I basically start getting some comics? Maybe I could just catch up on some comics I wanted to read, but I couldn't. Yeah, that sounds like a good idea. Maybe like Spawn? Spider-Man comics? DC comics? Marvel? Who knows? By the way, don't own none of Marvel, DC, characters, or Marvel characters, nothing like that. Or basically the creators of Spawn. They are owned by their own, people that own them. Anyways, back to it. So that's what I did. I just played on my phone for a bit, and funny enough, since I'm able to basically, actually at least control electricity a bit, when my basically phone was at 30% battery, just charge it up, and it's at 100%, which is like a short little charge, which I'm just smirking and just keep playing, which I get pretty far in the game on my phone. And by the time it's night, though, I do basically look at Percy, and I'm like, "Hey, Percy, did you see anything of the unordinary?" Which he basically says what he saw is, with the centaurs and the centaur kid, then a golden, color that looked like it came from the mane of the mane of a lion, in which I pause in basically what I was doing, and I look at him. I'm like, "Are you sure?" He goes, "Yes." Why? In which I'm just thinking, seriously, the lion's back? Whatever. Which I do see the time, and I'm just looking at them. I'm like, I'm gonna take my nap. Well, go to bed. You guys have a nice night. In which Percy nods, and Annabeth says goodnight. I say goodnight to both of them, and sleep. In which I fell asleep. But something happens. As when I basically am opening up my eyes, I'm like, huh? Wait. Oh. Huh. Well, this is really fun. In which I'm wondering, okay, who's calling upon me? Which parent? As all of a sudden I just hear the voice basically from behind me like, "What? I cannot basically talk to you in your sleep?" As I turn around and see it's Chaos, I'm like, "Oh, hi Mom." Well, hi Mother Chaos. She goes, "Hi." Oh, sorry. She goes, "Hi. I only came here basically to see how's everything going, to tell you some things are gonna happen. Oh, and also a friend of mine's basically gonna get in contact with you soon." I'm like, huh? Well, I'm doing fine. I, kind of learned some new things. Trying to get, control over basically my instincts and not basically start fighting like I'm on autopilot. She does not, not understand that. I'm like, oh, and, found out what I can do with my chakra, which I already knew, but I didn't know what type of elemental, basically, manipulation I need to do, but I think it's wind, maybe even earth, who knows. In which she nods in understanding. She goes, "Alright, well, I know a friend of mine wants to get in contact with you. He's gonna meet you at your next stop. In St. Louis, I believe." In which I'm just blinking, I'm like, huh. Oh yeah, that's when the Queen of Monsters are gonna be there. Yay. That's not gonna be fun. In which she just says, "I'm sorry for that." I just sigh, but again, I'm saying to myself, I need to really stop sighing a whole lot. Okay, I'm just trying to make sure I had the name right. Hold up. Alright, yep, I was right. Sorry about that, just had to look for the book. So, anyways, I would just basically look at Chaos. I'm like, okay, so your friend's gonna get in contact with me for what reason? To test you, in a sorts. That's all. Oh, and, you may want to be on guard. It's not gonna be her. They're also coming. I'm like blinking, I'm like, oh, come on! Seriously? Don't they care on how much protection I have? Which Chaos just says in a very, very serious tone, no, they don't. They will think it's way better to get rid of you than ever have you exist. I'm like, ouch. That hurts. Actually. She just sighs and comes up and hugs me. And she goes, there. It'll be fine. You'll be able to survive. Maybe. Hopefully. I'm like, thanks for the pep talk. She goes, I'm never good at this. I'm sorry. I'm like, sure you are. She just sighs and we're like, well, I just want to let you know so you're prepared. Okay? And I, yeah, thanks. So we're gonna go past the Mississippi River. Yeah, I believe it's that. Which I'm basically thinking about it. I really never really traveled in my old world, so... But, I probably got the name wrong. She just kind of, Cass just kind of grins at me and goes like, well, you got it right. And basically, at least now you're having way more of an adventure than you did in your last world. I'm like, true. Anyways, so, you just want to basically chat for a bit? She does nod. So we chat for a bit. Basically, I'm also kind of glad basically I can, have Artemis sign the contract or something, where basically I need to go to Monster Hunter World after this and try to become a hunter there. Which she basically, I do ask, so what world am I going to be in at first? Monster Hunter World, in which you're going to be the playable character. So I'm like, oh, so I'm going to start from the very beginning and, oh, well that can be fun. Huh. I really don't remember what happened at the beginning. Wish I had basically gone back and played it then. Or looked up a video of it. Oh well, I'll find out on the way, before I go there. She just nodded that. Chaos nods and we just chat for a little bit more, but then she says, well, you gotta get going. I'm like, alright. Be safe, Mom. She goes, oh, by the way, those shadow monsters? I'm like, yes. There's more that can be coming. I'm like, there's more coming? She's like, yep. Have fun. And I'm like, Mom, why are you so happy about that? She says, have fun. I'm like, Ma. And then I just disappear. And I'm just saying, underneath my breath, as soon as I wake up, I'm like, I hate her sometimes. Wait, no. This is the first time I ever, hated her for something like this. Curse you, Mother Chaos! I say in my head. In which I hear a chuckle. And I'm like, primordial being. Creator of all. Of course she can do this. So yeah. So, after that, basically, we do go past the Mississippi River into St. Louis. In which I kind of just ignored Annabeth and Percy's interaction and kind of decided to go do my own thing for a bit, just roam around the cart. Give me a minute. Sorry about that. I just need to go do something real quick. Okay, so as I was saying, so I kind of leave the group for a bit, go travel to another cart, or a couple of the carts, and basically when I'm walking past one room with a man that I can tell from the jacket, and basically the body type, as I'm walking past, he goes, child, where's your parents? I'm like, and I'm thinking to myself, come up with a good lie, come on. I'm like, oh, my parents are in basically a couple carts down, I just am looking for the bathroom. And I'm thinking, really? That's the only thing you can come up with at this moment? In which basically I hear basically a slight amusement from Mason the man. I'm like, is there anything a problem, sir? He's like, no, no. It's just that you passed the bathroom. I'm like, oh. I'm kind of was in a rush. I see. Well, if you don't mind, do you mind sparing some time with me? Which I'm like, sure. He basically asked me to sit over, which I have not seen the person's face. All I know is they have black hair and ears basically are being covered by their hair, but for some reason, he's, skin color is slightly white. Well, basically I'm thinking, okay, that's unusual. As basically I sit down across from this person, I'm like, so, is there anything else you want to ask me, sir? He's like, just wanted to basically see something. You see, I'm doing a little bit of a experiment. And I'm like, experiment? Really? He goes, yes. See, I'm, you're gonna say, I work in the field of basically something like a therapist. Well, not by much. It's more of basically the study of basic human psychology, in a sense. Which I'm just like, okay. So what can I help you with? He goes, I just wanted to basically know some things about random people, which I ask these questions. What basically do you plan to do with your life? How do you basically plan to do things? What's basically your dreams, goals? That sort of thing. I have basically gained a wide variety of answers. So I'd like to ask for yours. Which, I'm like, oh, okay, then I can spare some time. Me, though, thinking, I have a bad feeling about this. Bad feeling about him. And for some reason I get there's a sense of death and blood on him. Which I'm basically, kind of, mentally shivering. Like a cold chill went down my spine. And which goes, so, I'd like to ask, what's your basically, what do you think your personality's like? In which I just blink, I'm like, oh, you basically asked, be truthful, please. Basically, I need the truth for this. Which I just sigh, to be honest, I don't really know. My true emotions, my true personality is kind of all over the place. One minute I can be happy, and next minute I can be sad or bored, and I can be but I'm always angry all the time sometimes. It just depends on a certain day. Which he does nod. He goes, second question. What would you do with if you had any type of power? I guess do whatever I want. Do whatever I want with it. Which basically I could somehow tell he's raised up an eyebrow. He goes, explain, please. I'm like, well, if I had power, I would try to live my life. Use it for good or evil. Save someone or not. Live with my consequences and just go move forward. Go on and move forward. In which I basically can, see the hat he's wearing basically as he's nodding. He was like, not basically something I've heard that often, but it's the right choice to make. Anyone that has power always has a choice to use it for any way they want to. Now, my final question. I'm like, okay, do you believe in vampires? Which basically, that kind of basically just had, it was kind of like, okay, just calm, and then all of a sudden my instincts are telling me, red flag, red flag. I'm like, we're talking about like Dracula. That sort of vampires, right? Which he goes, yes. Whatever type of vampires will there ever be? I'm like, I mean, it's a yes and no. Which, again, somehow I can tell he has an eyebrow raised. I'm like, I believe in the vampires and the supernatural. But there are basically points in time where basically legends are just legends. So, I like to believe they are real, but at the exact same time, I do not believe they are, like werewolves. Which he basically, I don't see no reaction from him, but then he just chuckles at that. He goes, "So you like to believe that they are real, but without any proof, you will not go on and see. Well, you will not believe until then." I'm like, yeah, exactly. It's sort of like I just want to believe for the mystery part of the world. See if they are any. If they are real, then I hope that I can live and tell the tale. Which, basically, I can just tell this person's smiling. I'm like, so how do I do? He was like, well, to be honest, you're truthful, yet I can tell you do lie when it is necessary because you don't need to use the bathroom. Which I'm just blinking. I'm like, he caught me, just trying to swat the train. He goes, kids nowadays always like to get into some sort of mischief. I'm like, yeah. And what else? He was like, well, you're also honest. You basically like to believe in what could be real, than what rather is not, well, that is real. Vampires could be real. We do not know throughout history, but in a sense, I do believe basically you are, well, a person that would like to believe it is and have fun. You basically are a free spirit and basically like to choose your own choices. It's like nothing to hold you down. Nothing will ever control you. Which I'm like, yeah, I don't like to be controlled. But I don't like to basically also to, you can say, be held down by someone. Which basically I could just see the person nod again. Like, anyways, what is your name? Which, basically, he says, my name, Alucard. It's nice to meet you. Your name? For some reason, my gut's telling me to give a fake name, but I just say Jack. Then he goes, last name goes like, sorry. First name, only give me my first name. Which, I could hear him actually laughing at that. He goes, smart boy, only give me your first name so you will never be, never for me to find you again. Smart. Now run along, child. Which I'm like, yep, thanks. As I basically, get out of the seat, walking normal, and then as soon as I'm a little bit far away from it, I just start running. And I'm thinking, crap, whoever that was, I am never want to see him again. As then the paper goes down, as we see this person is having black flowing hair, pointy ears, sharp fingernails, white complexion of skin, fangs coming out of his mouth. And he just smirks. He goes, Chaos, your child is simply all over the place. And I do believe he could basically pass my test. So, as soon as I get back, Annabeth, Percy, and Grover are looking at me. They kind of see me a little bit sweating. As Grover's like, what's wrong? I'm like, I don't know, but there's someone on here. I don't like it. We need to get off this train as soon as possible. As, basically, that's when we stop. And, just let me try to find the name of the tower. Okay, so we did basically, get off the train at basically Amtrak station downtown. Basically, of Los Angeles. Well, St. Louis? St. Louis? Yeah. Whatever, yeah, basically. And Annabeth and Percy did make, saying like, oh, they could work together, and Grover did wake up, and that's when I got there. So we get off the train, and we have 3 hours, so we're going to do sightseeing, and we're all going because we're not leaving Annabeth behind at the Gateway Arch. So we do get there. There was not many people there. As Annabeth started talking about it, Percy and Grover are doing their thing. I'm trying to think of who could have been, what was it, what type of basically monster could have been in human form that would have, asked those questions. Like, could it have been my mother's friend? Chaos's friend? Or could it have been something else? And that's when Percy's like, hey, guys, do you think hate, as in basically Grover's like, Percy, public, you mean our friend down there? What, downstairs? But then Percy goes like, oh, right. You mean our friend way downstairs? I'm like, sighing. I'm like, guys, he's not the one, basically, who's a part of this quest. So can you guys stop thinking that it is my father? Which basically Percy's like, sorry, it's just, doesn't he have something that's like Annabeth's hat? Oh, the Helm of Darkness, Annabeth would say. I'm like, yeah, that. Which basically Annabeth goes, no, it's way more different than my hat. Basically, when he puts it on, and it basically produces fear like no other, allows him to basically become darkness itself and invisible, and allows him to fade through walls. In which the person's like, oh, great. That's good to know. And I just sigh, I'm like, look, come on. Let's just get this done with this museum and go up where Annabeth wants to go to, see our sights, and get back on the train and get out of here. Okay? Which, basically, Grover, Percy, and Annabeth just look at me like, sorry, I'm just kind of freaking out over some things still. Which Percy's like, I get it. And it was about that whoever was on the train. I'm like, yeah, come on. So we do get to basically the elevator and go up, but we have someone in basically the elevator with us, and there's a small dog too, and basically a lady there, in which basically I have to basically find some of her lines because I'm trying to make this at least her lines basically accurate. Hold up. Okay, so I was right. It was the elevator cart. Well, car, but still an elevator. As a few minutes pass, as in, all of a sudden, this, basically, the lady, with the chihuahua, says, no parents? As basically, I just blinked, because I really was not paying attention, because I was, kind of just focusing, and kind of looking at her, and I'm thinking, oh, great, her. Yay. If you want to know what she looks like, beady eyes, basically coffee stained teeth, a flappy demi hat, and a demi dress that bulged so much. Yeah. As basically, Annabeth says, they're below. In which I'm like, yep. We kind of got separated. We're too curious to wait for them. We're all just friends. Our parents basically knew each other from high school. Which, basically, the lady that's in the cart with her chihuahua is like, I see. That's good. And I'm like, yeah. Okay, sorry, I just had to, look at it real quick. And then Grover was saying, well, at least, my parents are afraid of heights. Which then the lady looks at Grover and goes, oh, poor things. Which basically we all just nod. Hold up. For some reason, when the chihuahua is looking at us, it's sort of growling. Before she can even say anything, something happens. Not the flight, but the lights flickered, as then the chihuahua stops growling. Which, basically she goes, Sonny? You alright? Which, I'm basically just blinking as then Percy says, Sonny? That's a weird name. Or, is that his name? She basically says, no. And I do agree that would be a weird name. which basically I'm just blinking. I'm like, obvious fact number one, guys, come on, and thinking in my head. In which, basically, everything's kind of like, going normal. We get up there, on the observation deck, and basically I'm just like looking around like, huh, kind of nice up here. Just wish nothing was gonna happen. So basically, I do go over to the row with tiny windows, and I see basically the city and then the river. I'm just sighing because I know what's gonna happen, and I'm like, get prepared. Come on, get your head out of basically the clouds. As I'm just blinking, I'm like, did I really have to say that? Ugh. So, as everyone's basically, we're looking around, Annabeth is talking basically about the structure and the supports and how she would have made it, the windows bigger. Basically, just Annabeth being Annabeth. Hold up. Alright, so basically, while that was going on, basically, the guard basically says, it's going to be closed in the next few minutes, as Percy's basically pushing Annabeth and Grover to the cart. Well, to the car, elevator car, basically. As when we get there, we realize, Percy realized that I knew this was going to happen. There are two, other people there besides, Annabeth and Grover, as they basically are saying the exact same canon, but when they look worried, I put a hand on Percy's shoulder, and I'm saying, I'll watch over him. In which they kind of have like a, still a worried look, but not that worried. In which basically, they just tell us be careful. Which I basically just nod along with Percy. So, as soon as that happened, the only people who were left were me and Percy, plus the little boy and his parents, the park ranger, and the lady and her chihuahua. Which basically, I just sigh and I kind of like Percy does his thing while I'm thinking of a basic strategy. So, I kind of decided just to close my eyes and think of a plan, and for some reason, in my mindscape, I basically put myself into, as I'm like, huh? What the? As in basically the shelves are there. The bookshelves, which I basically just walking over to it, and it's many different things I'm seeing on the bookshelves. Many different basically about magics, items from basically that I only see from the Fate series. But then there's basically on one of the shelves I randomly walk past, I see a book on basically, surprisingly, Genjutsu. In which I'm like, huh? Wait, seriously? But I didn't read anything about this. As I grab the book and I open it, there's nothing in it besides one technique. Which basically I'm like, wait. What's this technique? I mean, I can just place underneath, like, sleeping genjutsu, or, This one looks like it's a sleeping genjutsu, but it's also one that will allow me to basically use this only in certain situations. Can make my enemy basically sleep or follow my orders. It basically is kind of like a control genjutsu, but allows me to, at least sleep, make my enemy sleep in battle or control them to fight their own, basically, allies. Huh. Put the book back in because there was no hand signs. I'm like, I gotta figure out why this even got here. This is the only book here that was on Genjutsu. So, why did I get pulled into here? As I'm trying to figure this out, and I basically started seeing some books starting to, like, shake and such, but then I get pulled out of it. As then I hear Percy's like, "What the?" As I see the chimera. As basically, it's big, it's ugly, and I'm just like, great. The Chihuahua was a chimera. As well. I just hear the lady saying, if you, well, son, if you insist, basically, I'm like, huh? What'd I miss? And then basically, Percy just says, oh, nothing much, just her, well, her Chihuahua is her son, in which then we all hear her say, well, not in which, but basically, the lady says, chimera, dear, not Chihuahua. It's an easy mistake to make. Which I'm like, how is that easy to mistake? I literally just asked her, how is that easy to mistake, ma'am? In which she basically was like, oh, you didn't need to worry about it. I'm like, I think that needs to be questioned a bit. In which, I'm just like, basically baffled by that. And she rolls her eyes, basically. So, what happens is, what happens, I would think, I just need to kind of make sure when I could bring up a certain thing, though, real quick, though. Okay, just want to make sure of something. So, as the lady shows her green and scaled, basically arm, and, and basically then we kind of notice her teeth are fangs and her eyes are narrow, then basically kind of like her eyes are basically show the slit of it like a snake, like reptile, as I'm like, oh, great, it's you, echidna. As basically Percy's like, huh? What? Yeah, the Queen of the Monsters, Percy. Basically, Percy kind of just says, wait, don't you mean like that creature from Australia? Wait, that... I don't know how to pronounce the name right, so basically, I'm just trying to think. Okay. Yeah, Anteater. Just want to make sure. Which basically says that, which again, I was like, she basically hates it when people mention that about her, because, she hates when people say that. That's why she hates Australia, which I kind of just chuckle at that. In which basically, I hear the kids screaming, the parents that are, screaming. I see basically also the security guard is shocked and paralyzed with fear, as I kind of see basically the chimera is as tall where it's actually, touching the roof. I immediately, take off my bandana, wrap it around my face, as then it turns into a mask, and, I then take out basically my, daggers. In which basically, I say, Percy! Which he's like, oh, right. So before he can do anything, the chimera lunges at us, try to basically, bite us. We both dodge out of the way. Basically, Percy is in one direction where he was, like in Canada, where he'll say basically, hey, Chihuahua! On the other side of basically these parents and and the security guard, as I'm there, as I just say to myself, I can't let these guys get hurt. I can't worry about them. I gotta worry about basically Percy and how we're not to die here. So I immediately react and basically turn around towards them, run up to the door, and just basically, Spartan kicked it open. Which somehow, I enhance my leg with chakra and with magic, and it just sends it flying off of the hinges, and I say, just get out of here, go! As basically they look at me and just nod and run, the security guards looking back, and I just say, don't worry about us, just get out of here! As he basically he kind of looks like he wants to say something, but he just runs. As I hear Percy basically, say, hey, Chihuahua, as that's when the chimera, looks at him and basically then shoot a massive amount of fire at Percy that he ducks. Well, he goes to the ground and blows a hole in the, well, on the side of the, basically the arch. In which, technically, I can actually say that all happened while, basically, I was, talking to the people, so, I said, so, but still, I said after, I think. Yeah. So when I turn around, I see that, I'm like, really, Percy? We just ruined a national monument. This is gonna be on the news. Percy, doesn't say nothing as, well, Percy, as soon as he gets up, he basically tries to hit the Chimera, in which I'm running towards, basically, them. As, when Percy, I know Percy's gonna hit, basically, the collar, which it bounces off, and then he tries to straighten himself out because he's losing balance, and that's when the tail, the snake of the tail, the Chimera's tail that has a snake head, bites him, and that's when all of a sudden he screams out in pain, but I just came out of nowhere and just sliced off the head of basically, well, after basically it lets go of Percy, I sliced off the head as the Chimera screams out in pain, as they sound like, yeah, worry about someone else too, Fido. And whereas Percy's like start to feel like the burn sensation, and I was like, Chimera, sweetie, as the beast is just looking at me, it's growling at me as I'm looking at it with no fear. But that's when all of a sudden, basically, instincts kicked in and dodged out of the way and grabbed something. And when I look, it's an arrow. As I'm thinking to myself, you have to be kidding me! Not now! In which the Chimera and the Echidna look over and we see the hunters. In which I immediately throw down the arrow, put back my daggers, and grab basically my sword, well, my charm, which has a sword, and basically basically turn it into its katana form. As I'm like, Percy, jump into the river. Which she's like, huh? 1, it's the only way to heal you. 2, this gets you out of the way. As Echidna says, yes, Perseus Jackson. Jump. Show basically your lineage, basically. As Percy's looking down the water, but then looks back at me, and the hunter, she goes like, I can't leave you to these people. I'm like, Percy, the hunters of Artemis are here for me. As more of them coming, in. As they say, I already see some, basically, arrows coming towards us. As I immediately, swing my sword, basically blocking each one of them. I'm like, Percy, if you don't believe in, basically, yourself, or basically Dad, believe in me. Got it? You'll survive this. You'll live. So just jump. When she looks at me, he goes, promise me you'll survive. You'll come back. I'm like, I promise. Just get out of here. As Percy does, say to himself, about basically Poseidon, and does basically fall. In which, basically, I see one hunter says, you, who basically are staying as Our Lady's basically honor. Which, I'm like, hi, sisters? Can we just talk this as basically one arrow hits me as about to hit me as I dodged it. I'm like, as it flies out and it hits a random building, I'm like, I'll take that as a no. We can't talk this peacefully. As one of them basically glares at me saying, we're gonna basically make sure, Our Lady Artemis is not basically, will not be made fun of by you. Wait, not by you, made fun of for your resistance. Like, kind of says that. You want to kill me for Lady Artemis, for Artemis, or as I like to call her, the Lolly Archer. Alright. As they kind of just growling at me, as I just sigh, I'm like, so I can't have any fun or games, huh? Guess I have to get serious. So, I basically noticed that the Chimera backed away as Echidna is just watching in interest. Because they normally would be trying to kill her, but they're mostly focused on me. So, I just look at them, briefly, and then I look back at the hunters, which is a good lot of them, with multiple weapons, daggers, swords, axes, spears, shields. I'm like, so this is all just to kill me, huh? Which basically the commander, which is speaking, which has a tiara around her head, says, yes, we want you basically gone, so basically Our Lady would not ever have to be ashamed of herself to have someone like you as her child. In which then, that kind of makes me a little bit angry and irritated. And I just kind of just say coldly, I won't die for some petty reason like that from you. In which, that does not get them shocked, but just even angrier, as one of them says, Zoe, can we attack now? And then she nods. And that's when Zoe says, charge, and most of them come at me. Some of them shooting arrows, a lot of them come at me with daggers, swords, spears, and axes, as I just rush basically towards them. And Mount Olympus with Chaos, they're watching this. The people who are my basically parents are kind of worried. Hayes is kind of worried. Persephone is also worried. And basically Chaos is worried too. Artemis is just thinking, why are they basically all attacking him like that? She understands why they're doing this, but the fact is, the ramifications that's going to happen if I die may be severe for their, even she cannot save them. But back to the fight. So, when basically one of them's getting close to me, it's a spear one. Well, spears. She basically hits me with, the spear, thrusting forward as I dodge and immediately basically kick her in the side, send her basically towards one, as then dodge, basically a slash, try to slash down as one of them basically parries my attack. I see an arrow come at me, basically catch it with my left hand, dodge another slash, basically throwing the arrow down, basically at least hitting basically the cloth of the cape that they have on the ground, and then kicking that person, kneeing that person in the face, dodging slash from a dagger, suddenly grab my dagger from my coat, basically blocking a sword, kicking one person away, jumping back, over enemy attack, slashing down, cutting them in the back. Even though I'm not trying to kill them, I'm trying to leave them basically hurt and incapacitated, and basically I'm feeling like, I really should not be trying to hurt them, but they're telling me no choice. I feel like crap for doing this. So, in a sense though, when that one person that goes down stumbles forward as some blood, coming off of her, their attacks and ferocity is coming, as Zoe and a couple of others are watching this, are kind of trying to see what my next moves are going to be. So, in a sense, each attack I'm dodging, I'm pretty much, getting analyzed. So, as one person's about to try to kill me from behind with basically a spear, I suddenly, somehow get this sense, that weird sense, and even tell where it is as I dodge. Put my arms around the spear and start moving the spear around, hitting people, hitting some of the hunters with the one that's holding the spear that was trying to hit me. It hit like 2 or 3 people at a time, then hit another 2 or 3 people, as then all of a sudden I just break the spear, putting the dagger away as I then grab that spear piece and start using it as a makeshift dagger. As I'm basically parrying some attacks too from another spear user, slicing with my katana with that spears, and that spear end. Slashing near the spear's basically metal, then kicking that person away. Kind of somehow caught the spear tip with my foot, kind of flinging it up in the air, jump and kick it. Made basically one person dodge as that spear tip was in the wall. As I land my feet, I'm thinking to myself, okay, that's just kind of showing off. in which I kind of infuriated them. The gods are actually kind of impressed by this. Artemis is just kind of shocked. Me, on the other hand, I'm basically wondering, okay, I'm doing good. I'm doing really good. I got this. I can handle this. And all of a sudden, an arrow hits me when I was dodging to basically the left. The arrow hits me on my left shoulder. As I'm thinking, maybe not. I don't got this. As when I look, I see basically Zoe basically smirking. As I immediately grab the arrow piece, rip it out of my shoulder. And what happens next is I just jump backwards, basically towards the hole that the chimera made. And I basically throw down basically the spear piece that still had the wood part that I was holding on to. And have the sword right next while my katana stabbing in the ground. And then I basically, take out my arrow. Well, not my arrow, it's my bow. Actually, no. All of a sudden, I just conjured basically the bow with projection and pulled back on basically the arrow that was inside my shoulder. As it already healed. As basically, they're just shocked by this. I'm like, don't think basically this is my only tricks is me is my agility and my fight capability. I have a lot more in store for you. And then I just released the arrow that suddenly shoots basically towards Zoe. She dodges it, but one of the hunters basically had their hood caught by the arrow as they get sent flying and lands right on the wall as they're like stuck and saying, "Hey, let me down! Let me down!" As I'm just thinking, wow, nice shot. Basically, as the bow just disappears, I grab basically the katana out of the ground along with basically the spear that has, well, the handle that I made out from the spear. Basically, I just, take a deep breath in and out. And I basically think to myself, okay, is there anything I can do? Which I'm looking at basically this. I take a quick look at this, basically the spear tip, which I'm thinking, actually, I could probably use this, like, from Assassin's Creed. As I'm just blinking, I'm like, no, focus! You know what? I don't need this. So I just open up my pocket dimension portal. As they just all blink, I just throw that into it. I say, I'll work on that later. In which they just like, one basically hunter's like, so, male, how would you even do that? I'm like, it's one of my abilities from being the child of chaos. An infinite pocket dimension. Comes in handy when you're moving stuff around. In which they all just blink and I'm like, what? They just, for some reason, they just kind of get angry at that. I'm like, did I say something wrong? Doesn't matter. So, for some reason though, I gained basically an image in my head of something. And what it is then is from basically a certain person that just says, you need more power. Try this technique out. It may only work once. In which I see the technique and I'm like, oh, okay. Well, thanks, Virgil. Thinking to myself. So, I basically sheath my sword as basically all of a sudden I feel like energy is going into basically the sword, my katana itself. So, what's basically about to happen? I'm basically about to run towards basically the hunters. The hunters are gonna basically shoot a volley of arrows at me. But before that can even happen, before anything else, I just hear someone says, "No, Chimera, don't!" As what happens next is, I see the Chimera suddenly lunge at me, pushing me out towards the basically hole it made. And it's just basically, how can I say this? It's basically, while I'm looking at the Chimera, I can see something like its eyes glowing. In which, basically, I could just hear somehow someone just says this, "Good luck to you, hero." Which I'm like, huh? Before anything can happen, all of a sudden, basically multiple different bats are coming out of nowhere, wrapping around me. And I'm like, wait, oh crap, no. As I'm basically about to swing my sword as a bat just gets me. I see red eyes, and then all of a sudden I'm thinking to myself, why do I feel so sleepy? As all of a sudden, I'm being flown off. The Chimera gets saved by the bats too, as the hunters basically looking over seeing bats are carrying me away, as Zoe's gripping her bow and glaring at me while I'm basically being carried away. As one of them says, saying, Zoe, should we basically go after Echidna? She sighs and then looks back and Echidna's gone. She says, no. You must regroup and try to find out who saved him. So, they leave. The Chimera is being, saved. And what happens next is, though, the Chimera did have something plucked out of him, which was a fang, Chimera fang, basically, and flies away. Well, the bat flies away with it. As it kind of goes, Sonny, why did you basically help him? Which the Chimera doesn't, shakes its head and, then howls in pain as, as a kid, and I was like, oh, no, what happened? As, she kind of worries for Chimera. So, meanwhile with Percy took the plunge and being saved and get the message that he needs to go to and get something from his father. What happens basically next is that when he comes out, Annabeth and Grover basically says, Percy, is everything alright? Which Percy's like, no. We have to go back up. Which basically Annabeth and Grover's like, what's wrong? He was like, Jack, he's fighting basically the hunters and the Chimera. We have to go back up as soon as before he could say anything more. All of a sudden, a man comes up to them and he says, children, I believe you're looking for someone. And someone called Jack Van Helsing, which basically they look and they see the man with black hair, pointed ears, basically, fangs, coming from his mouth a bit, wearing a nice dressed, basically, suit and jacket, as basically his pale complexion, which Annabeth and Grover and Percy are kind of basically scared by this. From basically, Grover's even scared because of Monster. He goes, you're a monster, and what have you done with Jack? Which he goes, I have done nothing of the sorts. I merely had someone saved him. Come with me. He's basically going to be at my home here. You could say one of my safe houses. As he's walking away, as Percy kind of sees the news reporter, and then he kind of looks back at Annabeth and Grover, and then he nods, saying we have no choice but to follow. And yeah, that's where we're leaving off, everyone. Because Percy, Annabeth, and Grover follow whoever this is. Wait, no, actually we're not leaving off there. As I think Annabeth asks, who are you? In which the person looks at them while walking and smirks, goes, oh, I never introduced my name. My name is Dracula. Nice to meet you, children. And that's when they all have eyes widen. And okay, now we're leaving it off. Hope you guys have a nice day, night, wherever you are. Bye, everyone.